This is a video about my spiritual awakening. I've noticed that other people have put stories about their spiritual awakening on YouTube, and if you've had a spiritual awakening, I encourage you to do the same. But anyway, this is what happened to me. Mine was very powerful and spontaneous. I believe that each person gets what's appropriate for that person, what's needed. I've heard people say that their spiritual awakening was gradual and happened over time. Anyway, as a younger person, I was very angry and withdrawn. In fact, some people were afraid of me. They thought that one day I would just snap. And fortunately, I did not. And today, that wouldn't even come close to that. I don't own any guns whatsoever. But anyway, I ended up being a single parent from the time I was about 28, 29. And my ex-wife, she had issues too, and it had to do with a hard drug. And she tried very hard. But those are just the circumstances that came out. I apologized to my kids a lot. I did not want them to think that what was wrong with me was their fault. And I spent a lot of time with them and gave a lot of love, but I also embarrassed them and was not the best parent sometimes. But I did the best that I could with the mental state that I was in. But anyway, I was always an exceptional worker. Even though I appeared mentally unstable to other people, the employers were happy to have me because I gave it my all and did my part in accomplishing their goals of what they needed. And so I always had employment, but I had become a fluent Spanish speaker, and I lived in Southeast Texas, and it didn't just come because I'm really smart. It came because I studied at every single break, and I had it hanging on the wall of the shower and was obsessed with learning it and bugged the hell out of people asking questions. But anyway, I went through a very bad part, and I hit the drugs and alcohol really bad, and I forgot it. I forgot the Spanish because I hadn't spoken in 5 years, and I couldn't even help my daughter with her homework. But anyway, now I'm coming up to the part of the spiritual awakening. I had started going to AA meetings on Sunday at 10 a.m. because that's the only one I could go to without being too drunk. And I drink anyway before I went, but I did not speak. And I don't know if I should have done that or not, but I did. And I would go to work, and I was in so much emotional pain. And I was just out of it. I mean, I was close to suicide. And I remember in my younger years, when I was much younger, I would have these intuitive feelings and this interest in spirituality. I had a very big interest in spirituality, even though I was not in the best mental state all my life. When I was a child, I was, not in the best mental state until after the spiritual awakening. And but later those intuitive feelings just left. And if you're like that, which most people are, I haven't met very many people who are not. There are some people who are not, but most people are. And if you get that feeling, like example, I'm going to say something. I'm going to talk to somebody about something, and I think it's the right thing to say in my mind, and I think it's going to help them or whatever. Whatever the situation is, I don't think it's going to do any harm. But I get this feeling inside, no, don't do that. A strong feeling. And because for some reason it's going to cause harm to them, or for some reason it's not the appropriate thing to do. Well, later on I found out that it is spirit guides doing that. Or some people call them angels. You can call them angels if you want to. But anyway, that had gone away. The connection with spirituality had gone away. And I hit the alcohol really bad. And smoking marijuana real heavy. I didn't get into other drugs very much. It's very rare. And I was at work, and I would just pray to anybody. I've become an agnostic. I was raised in a certain religion that was Christian based. They kind of go to extremes, but it was not appropriate for me. But it works for some people. But at that time, by the time I come up to the point where I was just about ready to die, I had become an agnostic, and I would just pray, somebody help me. God of the universe, anybody, just help me. And nothing would happen. And I'd go on, and nothing would happen. And then one day, this powerful spiritual experience hit me, and it lasted about 2 years. And I could compare it to, in the late 80s, I used to do LSD. Some people call it acid. Now I have spiritual experiences on that, but when it goes to that, I mean, you get confused and you have trouble organizing yourself to get to the bathroom, and when you come down from it, you feel really hard, like you have the flu or something. But this was no drugs at all. Powerful, powerful spiritual experience. And even though I was drinking, I would go home and get drunk, I was still having these powerful spiritual experiences and revelations like, just forgive everybody, just love everybody, understand everybody, and these revelations, and I decided to take myself into a treatment center, and I went to one, and they said that's called a spiritual awakening. I was talking to the counselors there about it. They said that's a spiritual awakening, and you had better do something about it or you're going to lose it. Well, I couldn't get in there because they didn't have no beds, and I ended up going to another one, and I got sober and stayed off of drugs and alcohol for 6 years. And anyway, that spiritual experience went on, and you would not believe it unless you were a witness of it, yeah, you wouldn't even believe it unless it was an absolute witness of it. But anyway, I had forgotten the Spanish, and then it came back. All of a sudden, I could speak Spanish again. I could feel other people's feelings. And one time I was walking, I went to an auto parts store, and I felt this powerful sadness hit me. Like I had lost somebody from death or something, and I was looking around like, what's going on? I didn't really quite understand what was happening. And there was a woman, she worked there and was bent over some boxes, and she was just trying to keep from crying. I mean, she was about to cry, and I could feel her feelings. And after the 2-year experience, the 2-year period, that went away. Now I feel feelings all the time, maybe it's other people's feelings, but it was not as strong as it was then. And one time I was down in Southeast Texas. There's a lot of lizards running around, and especially if you have a brick house. I was taking out the trash, and the big trash bin had rollers on it, and I ran over a lizard by accident and killed the lizard. And I felt great sympathy for the lizard, and I was just, distraught that the lizard had died, and was so sad for the lizard. And I was not on any drugs whatsoever. But anyway, even though I had these revelations and could understand things and had a different perception of life than I did before, I was not perfect at putting it into practice. I still had to grow up, But that spiritual experience set me on the path that I was supposed to go into, that I need to go into, and set me on the path of spiritual growth. And it was not like somebody took an SD card with information on it and stuck in my ear, and then all of a sudden I'm like a computer. I have this new program, and everything's working now. No, I had to grow up, but I had what I needed to push me in that direction. And I still have to grow up today. I am still growing. And some of what made me grow up were consequences for my actions. Some things that were not pleasant experiences that made me grow on some few occasions. But what do I have now? What I have now, I would not trade it for anything. I'm very more of a sociable person. I can make friends now, and I've come a tremendous distance, and I would not trade it for anything in the world. And I'm going to show you something. This is called the pendulum. And before I did this, I asked the spirit guide if they would help me. And if you've never used a pendulum before, they're going to say, well, he's moving it with his hand. And if you have used a pendulum before, then you're going to understand. But I can take this, and I've done it before, and I've given it to somebody else, or I've held it. What I did was I held it, and I told them, I said, think in your mind really hard, but don't say it out loud. Move it one direction, but don't tell me what direction. And then stop it and move it in the other direction, but don't tell me what direction you moved it into. And it always worked for me. Now, I've heard a woman tell me that it always works for her, but when she tries to get it work for somebody else, it don't. I don't know the details behind it. I think it has to do with the spirit guide cooperating. But anyway, I asked the spirit guide if they'll help me, and It's just me by myself. I can't get it to work on a door handle. Somebody has to hold it, but it can be anybody, and the other person can think it. I don't know why it doesn't work on a door handle. I don't know the details, but anyway, can you please move it from one side to the other just to show them? And move it kind of hard, please, so that they can see. Okay, keep going. Okay, stop. Stop. Please stop, just to show them. Okay, now go the other direction, but move it kind of hard so that they can see it. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for helping me. Okay, some people use pendulums to ask questions. Now, as to yes or no questions. I personally don't do that. Now, whether you should do it or not, I don't know. But there's information. There's things I don't know. You know, it's like a guitar player. You know, I'm not a professional guitar. I don't play the guitar at all. But it's just an example. Some people are very good at it, and I don't know all the details. But I personally don't ask questions using a pendulum. The reason why is because on the other end, I don't know who's there. And some spirit guides are very compassionate. They're there to help you and to guide you on your path in spiritual growth. And if I'm compassionate and I'm trying to be compassionate towards others in that direction, then I get what I need. But there are other spirit guides that are not the they're kind of mischievous. I would use it as an example of like a 12-year-old boy that throws up a treat in the air and has a dog catch it. You know, a dog that catches treats in the air. And then they every once in a while they take a jalapeno and throw it up in the air, and the dog catches the jalapeno and spits it out, and the 12-year-old boy thinks it's funny. That type of mischief. And why they do that, I don't know. I don't know the details. But I do know that and I think it's okay to call them angels, you know. But I do know that I get what I need. I've had things happen to me like, and I still have spiritual experiences, but it's nothing like the 2-year period that pushed me to where I needed to go. And I will end up reading something, and I always end up reading what I need. Like I'm going through something, and things will just happen. I'll turn on YouTube and I'll start listening, because I used to listen to Ralph Smart quite a bit, or Nikki Sutton, and sometimes Till Swan. Now I also often listen to something that's in Spanish called Dimension B. And my Spanish, when I had a spiritual experience, it just came back. And but anyway, I will turn on YouTube, and all of a sudden I'll hear it's like they're talking to me, exactly what I need. Or I'll be reading. One time we have this book we read, and it's just got a page every day. For like December 25th, there's a reading, and December 27th, there's a reading. And one time I read something, and I was like, wow, man, wow, that's exactly like it's talking to me. This is exactly what I need to hear. And I went to go show a girl, somebody that happened to be there at the time, and when I opened it up, it said something completely different. But that's not really. It sounds weird and impossible, but not really. Everything is made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. All atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Everything is made of exactly the same thing. That coffee pot over there is made of the exact same thing as my hand is. But the atoms in my hand have a different amount of protons, neutrons, and electrons. You break it down even further, it's energy. Everything's energy. So something far higher intelligent than us, or something a much higher life form than us, it would not be. It wouldn't be impossible for them to manipulate the energy or our perception. You know, when we're getting guided, a lot believe that we live in a matrix. I believe that's very possible because an experiment done by something they come up with around Einstein time, the time of Einstein, a theory, and you know, you can find more on it about particles and waves and how particles act, and they've done experiments on it. But if you want to find out more about it, just get on the internet and look it up. But for example, that coffee pot over there does not exist unless somebody's observing it, unless I'm looking at it. You know, that is one theory. So it's just science that we don't quite understand yet. If we run into a psychiatrist, they'll probably come up with We think that you are schizophrenic. Well, in 1973, Dr. David Rosenhan did an experiment to to go out and show that misdiagnosing is very common. Now, some people really are mentally ill, but I wouldn't go to a psychiatrist and start talking about this stuff. And but anyway, if I'm mentally ill, I'm very lucky to be it because it's working out for me. Things are working out for me. I was able to do things, become in a mental state that psychiatrists could not do for me with medication and everything. Now, if you're on medication, I'm not saying you should stop taking your medication. I did, I got off all psych meds, but I'm not a doctor. Some people, something very bad could happen to them and should be left with somebody that has more of a knowledge. But it's a process that happens over time as to the direction we need to go in. I really don't have much more to say. At one time I thought I was an indigo when I first started, and am I an indigo? I don't know. If I was an indigo child, I would have fit in the direction of the first wave. I started to get into being an activist with the school system for a time, and then I became discouraged. And what I wanted to do was, and it would take a lot of people to stand up to do it, but to make it mandatory in the school systems to where, like, if we have a math class or we have a science class, then there's also a class on mentally healthy thinking. And it would change a lot. I mean, teaching children have, just every year they have a math class. Every year they have this class on mentally healthy thinking. And I try to use the example as, if you've ever seen the movie Happy, it's a documentary called Happy. Use that as an example, sort of a sketch to go by. And what they did was they looked at the human brain and how people found effective ways of being happy, and why people were happy and why they were not. And they took samples from around the world. Well, a lot of it, you can't use the term spirituality in school, but spirituality could be used, we could say that, using the term spirituality, we could say a mental state where we live in harmony with others and practice compassion. And practice of compassion releases a lot of neurotransmitters like dopamine, and things that some illegal drugs, street drugs, do, but in an unhealthy way, too extreme in an unhealthy way. But compassion releases those things that give us that euphoria and brings fulfillment in our life. Well, you can't use terms like that, but you could, in the school system, they could show where things have worked out for people, and people just to learn how to, because we have all these dysfunctional families. CPS, Child Protective Services, are overwhelmed. The crime rate would go down. People would be better employees in school. At work, people would be better employees. You would have less sexual abuse. You would have less child abuse. You would have less school shooters. And it would be something that changed the world. Now, in a government view, they may see it hurt the economy because law enforcement, they're worried about being the dominant economy, and crime creates jobs in their eyes, in some of their eyes, in my opinion, from what I see. But anyway, I tried to get it to where I wanted to get started to where that would be mandatory in school. I have a class on a mentally healthy thinking, teaching children how to deal with life. And also in the high school years, it doesn't matter if they're a parent or plan on being a parent. No matter what, all high school students must take a parental class that teaches child development. And that's something I started to do, and then I became discouraged because a lot of people thought, well, this is a good idea, but nobody wanted to stand up and do what's needed, take the Martin Luther King approach or Gandhi approach. And but lately I have been seeing 11s everywhere. Every once in a while I see 1111, but the number 11, I see it everywhere. Every time I turn around, I see 11. And I just recently had a relationship end about 6 months ago, and I left her. I'm not going to get into the detail, and it had nothing to do with her. It had to do with an outside thing. And every time we seemed to get like we were going to get back together, something happened that that prevented it from happening. And I think me and her fit good together. We may end up getting back together in the future. But I read, why am I seeing 11 so much? I wanted to find out, and a lot of it you know, from what I understood, was trying to push me back into the path I was in. And so maybe I should do that. I don't know. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. But anyway, that was my spiritual awakening. And if you've had a spiritual awakening also, I encourage you to put it on YouTube, and I'll put it in my playlist. I'll make a playlist of it. And I believe self-love is very important. A lot of people, especially in the situation I was in, they don't have any self-confidence or love. I think it's very, very important that we love who we are. I worked very hard to learn to speak Spanish, and do I speak it absolutely perfect? No. There's still things I have to look up. There's things I have to look up in English, but when I talk to a Mexican, they're like, wow, you know, and they don't even try to slow down or anything for me, and they just talk to me like I'm somebody else. Well, I'm proud of that. I had to work very hard for it. And but one thing that we don't want to do is dominate other people. You know, it's good to feel good about my accomplishments. It's good to be the best version I can of myself. It's good to love who I am. To love who I am because I'm good to other people. That's a good reason to love who I am. But what's not good is to try to dominate other people. To be out there to be number one. I'm going to be the best above everybody else. That is not spiritual. And it's not working in harmony with other people. We want to live our life in a way that builds other people and be the best version of ourselves. We want to practice humility enough that we don't dominate other people and step on other people, and enough humility to realize that my thinking could be wrong. I have to keep an eye on myself. I have to keep adjusting my thinking. And if I go off course, I have to adjust it back on course. And I have to get information and realize that I don't know everything, and that I still have to grow. I'm still growing up, and even though I do know a lot, my thinking can be wrong, and they say that, well, we should think that we know nothing at all, and that's when we know something, is when we don't know nothing at all. Well, I don't really want to go that far myself. Maybe I should think that. Maybe later on I'll change my mind about that. I have come somewhere, and I have progressed a tremendous amount, and I am a good person, and it's important to me that I think that, but I don't want to dominate other people, and I don't want to try to be better than other people. Anyway, that's all I have. I left a part out. I wanted to show you this real quick. I live in a fifth wheel camper in southeast Missouri, but when I had my spiritual experience, I was living in southeast Texas, and I opened up a metaphysical store in southeast Texas because of my spiritual experience. There's my little meditating gnome. I have crystals everywhere. Most of it's left over from the store. There's a few things I bought that are new, but I think it's just totally cool. But sometimes I burn sage to clear them. There's my daughters down there. And they both still live in Texas. They're doing very well. One just got married. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that. I think it's cool. The hippie place, even though I don't smoke weed.